newest installment in the Transformers franchise, Rise of the Beasts. After the Bayformers films finally fizzled out after 5 attempts, none of which were particularly memorable, the franchise was semi-rebooted back in 2018 with Bumblebee, which, unlike the other films, was praised by both critics and audiences alike, even if it wasn't that big of a hit at the box office. But that movie did prove that that live-action Transformers films could be done well. I have seen all of the live-action Transformers movies, and they are varying in terms of quality. Let's go with that. I like Bumblebee. I really do like Bumblebee. The Bayformers movies are not very good. I think the ones with Mark Wahlberg are better than the ones with Shia LaBeouf. Hell, you just take out Shia LaBeouf, you've already got a better movie. But they're still not great movies. Like, the special effects are good, the action's usually pretty fun, the voice acting from the Autobots, especially Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime, is pretty damn good. And even the human characters, their acting is usually fine, but they just have terribly written or forgettable characters. Like I said, Bumblebee was a definite improvement. I don't think it's a flawless movie. It has some issues, and I do think it's a little boring in some places. Like, I think there could have been a bit more action to it. But it's still a solid movie. So I wasn't sure how this one was going to stack up. Let me adjust my camera just a little bit. Okay, that looks better. The green screen at the bottom was kind of freaking out. So I wasn't sure what to make of this movie. This is not directed by the same guy who made Bumblebee. Bumblebee was directed by Travis Knight. I can't remember who directed this movie, but it's some guy I've never heard of. So that's completely open. So I wasn't sure what to make of this. Like, the trailers looked fine and everything, but I couldn't figure out if this was going to be another Bumblebee or if it was going to be another Bayformer schlockfest. And considering this is getting pretty mixed reviews, I'm assuming you're all waiting for me to tear this movie, you new asshole. But no. I really enjoyed myself at this movie. And the reason I say you're probably expecting me to trash it is because this summer has been kind of hit and miss. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was fantastic. Spider-Verse I wasn't really high on. I didn't like Across the Spider-Verse, and The Flash was terrible. So it's kind of been hit and miss. And I've got a few more upcoming. I'm finally seeing Nefarious in a few days. I've been wanting to see that since it came out. Extraction 2 I'm probably watching later, and I'll have a review of it for tomorrow. And Elemental, I'll get to that at some point. I'm just kind of putting that one off. But I did go see this in the theater the other day. I saw it Sunday. So, wait, is today Monday? No, today's Tuesday. Okay, never mind. I'm getting off track here. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I am shocked how much I really enjoyed this movie, especially since, like I said, I'm not like a big Transformers fan. It's like, again, I don't mind the franchise. The animated shows that have been coming out recently, I've seen bits and pieces of them. That new Earthspark one is apparently more woke trash, so I've avoided that like the plague. But I'm indifferent to this franchise. Let's put it that way. But I did really enjoy myself. I honestly think this one was probably even better than Bumblebee, because I think it had a more interesting story. The villain of this movie being Unicron, finally, because we've seen Unicron before in these movies. They had it in The Last Knight, but they didn't really do anything. And I think in that movie, if I'm not mistaken, they pulled a twist where Earth was Unicron the entire time, and it amounted to absolutely nothing. So, I like that they actually, they had an entire world-threatening event here. Hell, it was an entire, like, universe-ending threat here. And Unicron doesn't really have a personality or anything, so, but it's an intimidating, it's kind of like Galactus. And I say that because I'm pretty sure that, Unicron was originally designed, or not designed, but like created kind of similar to Galactus. I think that was fully intentional by the people who created it back in like the 80s show, so it makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of personality there, but it's an incredibly intimidating presence that could destroy the world just like that. And one of my main concerns with this movie were going to be the human characters, because the human characters are usually the worst parts of these movies. Especially the first three, because I don't like Shia LaBeouf as a person or an actor, and the human drama and comedy of those movies were the worst bits of those movies. And the Wahlberg ones improved slightly, but they still weren't that interesting. And Bumblebee, again, improved a bit, but it still needed a bit of work. But the human characters are likable here. And I was concerned about Elena early on. She was kind of annoying at first, but she got better as the movie went on. I surprisingly liked Anthony Ramos as Noah. I'm kind of indifferent to Anthony Ramos. I haven't seen him in anything I hate. Like, I tried watching In the Heights back when that came out, but I gave up after 20 minutes because I got bored, and I felt like it was just going on forever. So I'm just like, you know what, I'm just done with this. But I was able to buy him as an action star, surprisingly. That's something I never got out of LaBeouf that I definitely got out of Wahlberg, was that Wahlberg passes for an action star and Shia LaBeouf, not so much. Shia LaBeouf has been in, like, big action movies in both Transformers and Indiana Jones, yet I can never buy him as a legitimate action star. But Ramos does pretty good in this movie. Heads up, this is going to be a spoiler review from here on out, because there are some things I want to talk about. There's not going to be anything, like, too major. Like, I'm not going to talk about, like, the final... Like, the entire point of, like, my spoilers for The Flash was the last 40 minutes, but there's some things here and there I want to talk about just briefly, so you've been warned. The mech suit that Noah got at the end from Mirage, I can't figure out if that was cool or if that was incredibly stupid. Like, I like how they used it, and it's an interesting idea, but I still can't figure out if it was a stupid idea or not. But, I'm kind of indifferent. The action sequences are a lot of fun, and that's something that was kind of detrimental to the Bay movies, is that they were good action sequences, but I always had a problem where you couldn't see what was happening. The second movie was especially guilty of this, and I know it was because they had production problems, they were trying to cut down on the cost of the CGI, but it doesn't help your action sequence when there's constantly shit in the way, so you can't see what's happening. This one, you can see everything perfectly fine, and while the CGI doesn't look real when it's against the human characters, you can tell it's an artificial effect, it still looks good. Your CGI, even if your CGI doesn't look real, it can still look cool. Like, if the designs and everything are good, then then the CGI can be a bit forgiving. That was my problem with The Flash, is not only that the CGI was dog shit, was because even the designs were just terrible. And it doesn't help with Muschietti giving that piss poor excuse of the CGI looked bad on purpose. So, and again, I like the Autobots in this movie. I love Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. He is Optimus Prime. But again, I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to cause a big outcry, the fact that he's not in Transformers 1. I'm not really sure why they recast him with Chris Hemsworth. I really like Chris Hemsworth, but I'm not sure why they did that, because I'm sure Peter Cullen would have accepted it. He's been doing this role for almost 40 fucking years, so why stop? I did like how this movie upped the stakes early. A lot of problems with these movies is that it seems like the characters are fucking invincible, though this does create a problem later. And that problem is that during the museum fight, Bumblebee is surprisingly killed. And that actually shocked the hell out of me, because I didn't expect them to kill off one of the big staples of this franchise in this movie. But this is a problem that's been plaguing these movies since the second movie, really, is that death is just a minor inconvenience. I mean, for God's sake, they even brought Sam back to life in the second movie. He's not even a goddamn robot. But every time it seems like a robot dies or is deactivated or some shit, there's always some way you can bring him back. And this movie was no exception, because both Bumblebee and Mirage die, and they're miraculously brought back. So that does kind of annoy me. I like the Maximals. Unfortunately, there's some voice actors in this movie that I do not like, and that's Ron Perlman and Pete Davidson. I don't know why Pete Davidson's in fucking everything now, but I can't stand him. But I will give credit the fact that the writing was good enough to the fact where I didn't even notice that I had a hard time even noticing it was Pete Davidson or Ron Perlman. So the writing made up for the fact that this movie has actors I fucking hate. It also has Michelle Yeoh, I don't know how to say her name. She's like a big thing in Hollywood now, and she's good as I can't remember the bird's name, and she's fine. What are the other ones? John DiMaggio's in this as Stratosphere. He has like 5 lines. Okay. And surprisingly, there are very few Autobots in this. There's Optimus, there's Bumblebee, there's Mirage, there's the one that transforms into a bike. A motorcycle bike, not a bicycle. Is that it? That can't be it. No, there's a couple others that show up. But okay, I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about. Like I said, the action sequences are pretty good. I especially really like the final fight. Because again, not only can you see things, they utilize everybody. Like, even the human characters, like I talked about with Noah's mech suit. Earlier on, he had one of these, Mirage gave him one of these gauntlets, and I did like that idea. It's similar to what Cade from 4 and 5, where he, like, picked up one of those big guns, and then in the 5th movie, he had that sword, which he only used once, but it was a cool idea. And here he has a little gauntlet that he can use, and later on he gets a full-on mech suit from the pieces of Mirage. And again, I can't figure out if this was a cool idea or a stupid idea, but they did, even if it's a dumb idea, they did still utilize it quite well. It made it more believable that this guy who's not, like, big and buff like Mark Wahlberg is able to help the Autobots in a fight. Because Elena doesn't help them with the fight, because she's not equipped for fighting at all. And she has the job of shutting down the portal. So I like how everybody's utilized. The Maximals and the Autobots are fighting not the Decepticons. Who are the villains in this? I can't remember what they're called. Because again, I'm not like a Transformers lore expert, and I saw this movie a couple days ago, so I don't remember every single detail. One thing I was worried was going to happen is that earlier on it seemed like there was some kind of racism allegory going on with the main characters, and I started to get a little angry about that because I'm sick of that shit in Hollywood, but it seems like they dropped it pretty quickly. And then there's the ending, which I really do like, because they've been teasing a Transformers and G.I. Joe crossover movie for a while now. They've been saying that a movie like that's in development for like a decade now, and it seems like that's finally moving forward with the ending straight up showing the G.I. Joes. Well, sort of. So, I surprisingly had a lot of fun with this movie. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but, notification showed up on my camera. I did not expect this to like this as much as I did, but I had a hell of a time with this movie. Go watch this. Don't go watch The Flash. Watch this instead of The Flash or Elemental or Spider-Verse if you haven't seen any of those 3. Watch this one instead. So I'm going to give Transformers Rise of the Beasts a B+. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.